You are Locked On Giants Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Locked On Giants Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the Giants get it done with a 5-3 win over the Chicago White Sox. Kyle Harrison had a great outing today, going 6 strong innings of 1-run ball. And the offense, they finally had a big rally. They even scored runs without having to rely on the home run. Unreal stuff from this club that has been so bad at situational hitting this season. They went 4 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Man, I feel like we should throw a whole party just for this Giants offense. There must have been some magic in the air with it being Harry Potter night and all out at Oracle Park. See what I did there? I'll put my dad jokes away now. We'll break it all down. But first, I want to thank you all for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for listening on the Locked On Giants podcast feed. However you're tuning in, we appreciate it. And make sure to check out the Locked On Giants Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Ben Kaspick does a great job. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. The Giants also, by the way, one thing I didn't say there, they played some great defense today, man. I really liked what I saw defensively from these San Francisco Giants, and it started early in this one. Top of the first, Grant McRae makes another nice diving stop coming in from center field. I really like this guy as part of the outfield of the future for the San Francisco Giants. I think he tracks really well as a guy who could eventually take over right field from a Mike Yastrzemski. I think he's going to be a great defender. I mean, could you imagine Grant McRae and Jung-Hoo Lee patrolling that outfield? Triples Alley will be non-existent for opposing players. It'd be really tough to get one down in between those two guys out there, both with a ton of speed. I really like how this Giants offense is shaping up for next season, or at least the outfield. I really think it's going to be Grant McRae, Jung-Hoo Lee, and Elliot Ramos. And I was talking with one of my friends who also works around in sports media around the Giants and stuff. And I'm not going to say who it was because I don't want to throw the guy under the bus, but I asked him, where do you think this leaves Luis Matos? Because I'm curious too. I think he's definitely got a spot on this team, although with Grant McRae doing what he's doing, I don't know what that's going to look like next season. So I asked him, what do you think about Luis Matos and how he fits in next year, and what's this mean for Luis Matos? And he said it means Luis Matos is going to be in Sacramento, which I don't think that's what's really going to happen. I think he still does end up with the Giants big league club next year, but I do think right now Grant McRae tracks to get more time than Luis Matos going forward. Then in the top of the third inning, it was the return of Thairo Estrada tonight, and he made a phenomenal inning-ending double play at third base. Great diving, sliding, kind of like in between. It was like a mix of both. It was a good stop. He went to the ground, going to his left, gathers and gets a perfect throw off to second base and got it out of the glove quick and quick enough to double up the runner at first to end the inning. And what a great welcome back for Thairo Estrada, a guy who's battled injuries, not just all year this year, but all year last year as well. He has really had a tough time staying on the field. And he's been, slumping this year at the dish. And today it was nice to see him come back and do a little bit of everything. Thairo also got it done at the dish. We'll get to that in just a second. But in the top of the fourth, we saw Kyle Harrison get into some trouble for the first time in this one. He gave up a couple of singles. Sox had 2 on, nobody out. But Harrison gets out of it with 2 ground balls and a fly out. No runs scored. You're a wizard, Harry. I said I'd stop with the dad jokes, but I had to let at least one more out. So Harry Potter night, man. I'm not a huge Harry Potter guy, but come on. If you're born of my generation, you know about Harry Potter, and you can't be calling Kyle Harrison. Everyone calls him Harry anyways. He had to start tonight, right? For the Giants. Like, this was the start for the Giants to turn to. Couldn't be anybody else throwing strikes out there for the Giants. So Harrison had a really nice day. As I said in the top of the show, he went 6 innings of 1-run ball. He had pretty good control over the strike zone too. He did issue a couple walks, but I thought he pitched very well today. 5 strikeouts, and he gave up 5 hits as well. Scattered them. That ERA now sits at an even 4. So it drops a little bit from where it was coming into today. And that now continues a streak of a couple games of pretty good starts for Kyle Harrison. Remember, last time out, they played the Braves. He gave up 3 runs in 5 innings. He also gave up 2 bombs in that game. So it wasn't the best we've seen Harrison, but it certainly wasn't the worst. Before that, he only went 4.2 innings of 2-run ball against the Washington Nationals. And prior to that was the blow-up game where he gave up 6 runs to Cincinnati. That was right after he struck out 11 against Colorado to open the second half of the season. So Harrison, he hasn't been as good as he was in the first half of the season, especially with that blow-up game against Cincinnati in the middle of all that. But he's finding his rhythm again. And today, I mean, the strikeout numbers aren't, super gaudy or anything like that. The swing and miss rate wasn't super high. It was about 26% today. So we've seen higher than that from him before. He did a pretty solid job out there on the mound today. And Harrison, I mean, this is what I'm hoping to see from him for the rest of the season. I'm not expecting him to go out there and have another 11 strikeout game, but I want to see that he's a serviceable arm. With the start today, he has now surpassed his career high for innings pitched and for pitches thrown. This is including minor league starts. So he did throw a ton of innings in the minor leagues a couple years ago, and this is the first time that he has thrown more than that in his professional career across any level. So Harrison, I mean, this is where the Giants need to see something from Harrison. I want to see some growth from him. I want to see that this guy can pitch and finish out this last month and a half of the season and stay solid because, I mean, as a young guy, he's 23. I mean, he's born in 2001. How crazy is that? That makes me feel so damn old. But Harrison, I want to see him continue to make starts deeper into games. I mean, we obviously didn't get to see him stretched out at all really last year, but this year the Giants have an opportunity to really see what they got with him, and they have nothing to lose, quite frankly, because at this point you're still on the outside looking in at the National League wild card, that last spot. If you're still keeping track of that, the Braves are, with the win today for the Giants, the Braves are 3.5 games up on the Giants. They're still looking up at the Mets, still looking up at the Diamondbacks and the Padres as well. All 3, well, the Braves were idle, but the Diamondbacks, the Padres, and the Mets all won today. So that doesn't bode very well for the Giants to gain any ground in that category. And I think this is going to be a lot of what we see for the rest of the season from these other teams in the wild card race. I don't expect a lot of these teams to slump. I certainly don't expect all of them to slump, or even multiple. I'm like, maybe the Mets might fall apart. I don't think the Padres are going anywhere. I don't think the Diamondbacks are going anywhere, and I don't think the Braves are going anywhere. I think those are your 3. We'll see what happens with the Giants, but things are not looking good. However, with the win today, they do get back over 500 for what it's worth. They're 64-63. They have been able to kind of hover around. Earlier this season, the second that they'd get over 500 or even close to it, it was like they were allergic to winning baseball. They'd immediately start losing games and get, kicked right back down that ladder. Today, they're able to pull out a win. Granted, it's against the Chicago White Sox. Every single team in baseball should be beaten up on this team, the Giants included. So, I mean, it's hard to really celebrate too much when it's the Chicago White Sox that you're beaten up on. But as I said, in that top of the 4th inning, Harrison, really nice job getting out of trouble after giving up 2 singles to start that inning and get out of there. After those 2 singles, 1, 2, 3 consecutive outs, no runs score. Then in the bottom of the 4th, the Giants threatening after Lamont Wade Jr. walked, and Michael Conforto doubled. Conforto been swinging a nice stick lately, although I still think that it's a little too late from this guy who's really, kind of disappointed a lot of Giants fans, me especially. I've been pretty out on Michael Conforto all year long after I was really high on him last year and to start this year. It's just too much inconsistency for me. Too many big ice cold slumps. Too many grounding into double plays, and not enough on the defensive side to make up for that. I mean, when he's down at the dish, he's not a plus glove in the outfield at all. Sometimes he can be a liability. He'll make a nice play every now and again, but does not have plus speed. Doesn't really have a plus arm. It leaves a lot to be desired. I think the Michael Conforto experiment has been played out, and I think it's time to move on. I think we see what the outfield of the future is. It's Jung Hoo Lee, it's Grant McCray. and it's Elliot Ramos. I don't think Michael Conforto fits into this going forward, but it is nice to see him start to turn around now, when even though it's a little too late. But the Giants, even after that walk and that double, can't get a run in the inning. Surprise, surprise. Giants with runners in scoring position can't drive them in. Then in the top of the fifth, the White Sox go up 1-0 after a walk and a steal puts a runner in scoring position, and Luis Robert Jr. singles and a runner scores from second. If only he had been able to do that so many other times this season, because let me tell you, I've had Robert on my fantasy team in baseball for the last couple seasons. This guy got to be the most frustrating fantasy player besides Mike Trout, who I also have on my fantasy baseball team. Don't ask me why. I just love to be hurt, apparently. I love having guys who just, get injured and just they're so tantalizing with how good they can be if they just stay healthy, but that they're never really going to stay healthy. You just wait for that one dummy in your league to overpay for him. Hi, I am that one dummy. So if you're looking for some easy wins in fantasy baseball, find a triple E team this season, because man, my team is so bad, just walking dumpster fire. But enough about my fantasy baseball team. That's absolutely terrible. White Sox took a 1-0 lead on that single from Robert. That was all they managed to get in that top of the fifth, and the Giants responded in a big way in the bottom of the fifth and the bottom of that same inning. Started off with a Thairo Estrada single. He got the line rolling. As I said earlier, really good to see Thairo being right in the middle of everything, right in the mix in his first game back, making that great defensive play earlier, and now starting off the big Giants rally in that bottom of the fifth inning. When it started off with a Thairo Estrada single, a Grant McCray single, and then a Kurt Casale single. And Kurt Casale even getting in on the action. That's how you're playing against the Chicago White Sox, because even Kurt Casale can come up with some RBIs against these White Sox pitchers. It ends up scoring Thairo and sends Grant McCray to third. Tie game 1-1. Then up comes Tyler Fitzgerald, who smacks a double. Grant McCray scores, and Kurt Casale gets over to third. Giants lead 2-1 at that point. And that's when I thought, okay, we're pushing our luck here. We already got two, not one, but two hits with runners in scoring position. Actually, that was one. Two hits with runners in scoring position in this inning. I did not think that we would be getting more. It's a little greedy for the Giants, but lo and behold, Lamont Wade Jr., who has been in such a bad slump lately, busts out of it. Hopefully this is the slump buster he's been needing desperately. Drives in a single. Casale scores, and the Giants lead 3-1. Tyler Fitzgerald takes third. Then Elliot Ramos comes up, sack fly, a productive out with a runner in third. No way. This Giants team has been, they have not been able to do this all season long, and it's been so incredibly frustrating. It is nice to see this team finally come up with some good situational hitting. That sack fly scores a run. Giants take a 4-1 lead. That was all they could do in that inning. Michael Conforto struck out to end that rally. It had to end sometime. It had to be Michael Conforto too, I guess. I should stop bagging on the guy. He did rip a double today. Michael Conforto has been pretty solid as of late. I'm just really tired of the Michael Conforto experience as a San Francisco Giant. The OPS sitting at 762 is just way, way, way too low for a guy who's supposed to be a power outfield bat. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. Those 4 runs for the Giants would have been enough, but after a 1-2-3 inning in the top of the 6th for Kyle Harrison, that was the last frame he saw. In the bottom of the 6th, Matt Chapman leadoff solo home run, and the Giants then led 5-1 at that point. Chappie's 20th of the season, 402 feet, 102.8 miles an hour. It was a hanging sweeper up in the zone, out over the plate, and he got all of it. 402 feet, as I said. Chapman, he's been up and down this season, but he's showing off the power. Having 20 plus home runs is something that the Giants have really, really, really needed from a corner infielder for a long time. And so it's nice to see that. It's a bummer that it's so inconsistent, man. The strikeouts with runners in scoring position lately from Chapman have kind of soured all of his home run production. And I know, I guess I'm being a little greedy saying I want both, but damn it, I want both. I want a guy who can hit for average when he needs to, maybe slap a single the other way when you gotta have it, or figure out how to drive that run in on a sac fly or a ground ball to the opposite side of the infield. I need this Giants team to start having better situational at bats. Today they did a pretty good job. They did a great job, but Matt Chapman, the solo home runs work regardless of who's on base. Although because it's a Giants home run, it, of course, was a solo home run, because they can't ever get guys in front of of these home runs on base. But I mean, again, another leadoff home run. So obviously you couldn't get a runner on in front of him, but in this situation, but crazy to me how many of these Giants home runs end up being solo shots. It's just weird how this season has unfolded. As I said, that sixth inning was the last one for Kyle Harrison. Eric Miller then came in, issued a walk in that inning, but otherwise a nice outing, which is good for him. Nice little rebound game. He's had some tumultuous events out on the hill lately. So nice to see him have a good inning. Then in the bottom of the seventh, the Giants had three more singles, loaded the bases, but couldn't score. So, I mean, the frustration, you can't score every time. I get that. But the frustration, even when the Giants are able to get runs in scoring position, able to pick up hits with runners in scoring position earlier in the game, it's a flash in the pan. They can't do this consistently. There's nothing to make you think that this team will be able to put it together going forward in these situations consistently either, because they had two other opportunities in this game and they weren't able to do it. That just the one inning that was basically all of their runs came from that one rally, which in baseball, that can be enough. I mean, that's how the game works, especially when you have your starting pitcher holding the other team down to one run in 6 innings of work. That'll get you a lot of wins. But I mean, I need to see this team have some more consistent fight at the dish in these situations. In the top of the 8th, Spencer Bivens came in. He started the inning, but he got touched up a little bit. Rogers came in next and allowed another run to score, but it was charged to Bivens. So Bivens gives up 2 runs in that top of the 8th. The White Sox shrink the lead to 5-3. Then in the 9th, Hicks comes in, gives up a couple of singles, but gets the final out and the save. An 8-pitch battle in the final at bat before getting the batter to line out. And it was an okay outing by Hicks. I kind of like seeing him at the ends of games and seeing him ramp up that fastball, touching 100 miles an hour up near there a lot. So fun seeing Hicks be able to have some production at the back end. Did get a little shaky there, giving up those singles. But overall, I kind of assumed, we talked about this one after Duvall's, before he got sent down after his big blow-up game. I think that the pecking order for saving for the 9th inning goes Ryan Walker, and then it's basically a coin flip in my mind between Rogers and Hicks. I mean, it depends on what you want, but generally speaking, I like going with the guy who has the overpowering stuff, the huge fastball that can touch up to triple digits. That's obviously not submarine Rogers. That's not what he's doing, but Jordan Hicks has that electric fastball, that devastating sweeper. I like him in the back end of games. I don't see any reason why he couldn't be used in more of these situations when Ryan Walker needs a breather. And he's pitched a lot lately, so it made sense to go to Hicks tonight. And it's the Chicago White Sox. So if you're going to give anybody a breather, this is the time to do it. Well, you can still pick up a win against a team that is just absolutely abysmal. The White Sox are 30-96 this season. If you are wondering why I am just absolutely dumping on this team so much, it's because they deserve it. They have not even won a third as many games as they have lost. This team might be, one of the all-time worst teams in Major League Baseball. So you absolutely need to win this game. You absolutely need to win this series, and you probably should come up with a sweep against the White Sox. The Giants' schedule gets exponentially harder going forward for the rest of the season. So get the wins while you can. And they did tonight, 5-3 win for the Giants over the White Sox. And we got to take a quick break here on the Locked On Giants postcast. We are way late for this break. I am sorry. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We will be right back. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections for a chance to win 100 times your money. With the finals over, the hoops action does not stop on PrizePicks. Women's basketball is still heating up, with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make big names for themselves alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson. You could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. If you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select players' stat projections on Tuesdays to helping your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. It's PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and Charles, my guy, Charles says, can we just play the White Sox and Rockies for the rest of the season? Man, if the Giants did that, they'd be in the playoffs, no problem. About 1/6 of the Giants' wins this season have come against the Colorado Rockies. 10 wins against the Colorado Rockies. I promise I can say these words. The Giants are 64-63 on the season. So 10 of their 64 wins have come against the Colorado Rockies. And if you were able to just, supplement that with some White Sox games, I think the Giants would have a pretty solid record. But then again, so would every other team in baseball if they played those teams every single week. But for the Giants, you can only play who's in front of you. Right now, it's the Colorado Rockies. And for Kyle Harrison today, it was Harry Potter night out at the yard. Harry had to go out and show how much of a wizard he was. And 5 times he pulled the rabbit out of the hat. I know that's not what Harry Potter does. That's not his kind of magic. But 5 separate times he generated strikeouts tonight. And he was doing it with the slurve more than the changeup. And that's interesting because he's used both of these pitches pretty equally this year. Last season, though, he did not really use that changeup very much. So he went back to what he did earlier in his career, and he just really relied on that four-seamer and that slurve all night long. He only threw the changeup 15 times, threw the slurve 29, and he threw the four-seamer 54. So that we expect him to pump those fastballs for sure. But we don't usually see him using the slurve that much more than the changeup. I thought that was kind of interesting tonight. I don't think it was because the changeup was ineffective. I think it was because the slurve was just slurving. You know what I mean? He was using that pitch pretty well, locating it pretty well. The changeup, it was getting hit at times. He gave up some hard contact tonight, no doubt about it, as he usually does. Kyle Harrison, honestly, one of the worst in the league at giving up hard contact. In the bottom 10% of all pitchers in baseball, he's given up hard hit balls at about 44% of the time when they're coming off the bat. So, when he gets touched up, he can get touched up. And as we've talked about plenty of times before, this is just kind of how he profiles. He and Robbie Ray are similar guys in the sense of their high fastball velocity guys who like to live up in the zone with that fastball. Sometimes it comes back to bite you. You're going to have some high strikeouts. You're also going to give up some home runs. And so Kyle Harrison is that same type of guy. But today, one thing he did really, really, really well was limit that hard contact. His average exit velocity today was just 82.7 miles an hour. That is much, much, much lower from his season average, which is 90.8. So about 10 miles an hour lower average exit velo, doesn't generate as many strikeouts. And I think that all equates to Kyle Harrison showing you some growth. It shows that this kid is learning how to pitch to contact a little bit more. We've seen that more and more from him this season at various points in time when it's August. This guy just passed the most innings that he's pitched in his career, regardless of level, in one single season. So yeah, he needs to start pitching to contact a little more, stop hunting those strikeouts as much. I'm not saying he needs to change who he is as a pitcher, but he needs to know when to do what. And in certain situations, you can go and chase those strikeouts. But sometimes you just need to get out of the inning and keep that pitch count low, get some ground ball outs. And Kyle Harrison was doing a pretty good job of getting those outs today. He as I said, he lasted 6 innings and he threw 98 pitches. As far as ground outs and flyouts go, dude had 6 ground outs. That's a pretty solid number for a guy who profiles as a fly ball pitcher. He only had 3 flyouts today. So Kyle Harrison doing a pretty dang good job at working in that lower part of the zone, getting those ground balls, something he is not super comfortable with doing, but showing some growth in his ability to do that, I think is a very good sign for him, for the Giants. And I think that will allow him to pitch deeper into this season more effectively. We'll see how he goes over the last month and a half, less than a month and a half. It's the 19th now, so we're getting into the end of August, and I want to see more from Kyle Harrison. Like I said, I want to see this guy finish this season out strong. I want to see Hayden Birdsong finish this season out strong. And obviously, it'd be nice to see the entire Giants pitching staff finish this season strong. But those are the 2 guys who I am really locked in on as we finish up this season. And the rest of the youth too. Grant McCray, Elliot Ramos. He's been doing pretty well at the plate lately after slumping a little bit coming out of the All-Star break. And yes, he did have that thumb injury. He also had a really hard time hitting high fastballs. He's gotten a little bit better at that. Still is something he struggles with, though. I want to see him get better at that before this season is over. So those are kind of the things that I'm watching for at this point in time. I think that hoping for the playoffs, I mean, if you're still holding out hope that the Giants can catch the Braves, and they're 3.5 back now. It doesn't sound insurmountable, but when you start considering how hot all of these other teams are, all of these other teams that are in the mix, with what the Giants schedule looks like going forward for the last month of the season, and all these other factors, it's going to be a tough climb for the Giants. Not impossible, but I really don't see this team making the playoffs. I hope they prove me wrong, but I don't see it happening. We got to take another break here on the Locked On Giants postcast. I want to talk some more about this defense today, Grant McCray, and just in general, a couple more notes from this Giants game. Stick with us on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel, and you've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, this week, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. This is an outstanding deal. Capitalize on this while you can, because all you need to do is go get a YouTube TV base plan and you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game for those first 3 weeks. And let me tell you, if you're watching football on Sundays without NFL Ticket or NFL Sunday Ticket, you are watching football wrong, because that is the only way that you are going to get all of your out-of-market games. If you're a fantasy football junkie, like, I obviously am. If I'm playing fantasy baseball, I'm obviously playing fantasy football. And with all of this, you can get in on all of these different actions. And obviously, if you're laying some bets down on FanDuel, you're going to want to have all of the games available to you. So all you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, just bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Today, the Giants win 5-3 over the Chicago White Sox. They improve their record back to a winning baseball team, 64-63 on the season. The Giants are about as average gets, though, this year. I mean, let's be real. They're beating up on a White Sox team that has just 30 wins this season and 96 losses. So I'm not really taking too much weight out of this win. I don't think it's like the start of some giant, big streak that the Giants are going to go on just because they beat the A's yesterday and they beat the White Sox today. Like, woohoo. I mean, these are two teams that you should be beating up on. And frankly, some of these games feel closer than they really need to. But one thing I really was encouraged by today was Grant McCray. This kid's been really solid since he came up, not just at the dish, but in the field as well. I should also mention one thing that we forgot to say earlier. Brett wisely optioned to AAA when to make room for Tyro Estrada in his return. And that's it's tough, man. I like Brett Wisely a lot, but he has been so bad at the dish as of late. His at-bats have been very uninspiring, and that magic in a bottle that he had earlier this season where he would just run into those big home runs, or those big extra base hits seem to run out. So Wisely back down in AAA. It's worked for some players this year that have gone down and gotten right and come back up. Look at Tyler Fitzgerald and what he did. So hopefully Brett Wisely can have some of that same experience as well. But as far as youth, we still have up here, though, Grant McCray. I'm very excited about this kid. He only went 1 for 4 today with 2 strikeouts. But since he's been called up in very small sample size, he's got an OPS of 979, a batting average of 333. And this is a guy who doesn't really track to be a phenomenal, like, top-tier hitter. He's going to be a contact guy with some surprising pop. And he's got a really solid glove in the outfield. And he's got major base stealing potential, which gives the Giants a dimension that this offense is desperately missing. It adds a new way for the Giants to be able to try and create some runs when this team is obviously just absolutely putrid at creating runs. Yes, they got 12 hits today and scored 5 runs. They went 4 for 6 with runners in scoring position. It is against the Chicago White Sox. I cannot emphasize that enough. This Giants team cannot do that against good teams. They have shown us time and time and time again that they are absolutely awful when they play teams that know how to play defense and know how to pitch. And the White Sox don't really know how to do either one very well, and they also don't know how to hit. So the Giants, they got lucky with their schedule this tonight, 5-3 win over the White Sox. I don't think a game like this, you necessarily win against a good team. If you have one inning where you have a decent rally and the rest of the game, you're just asleep at the plate. So the Giants, a good win today. Grant McCray, I really like this kid. I think he tracks as an outfielder of the future for the Giants. That's why I'm so excited to see him for the last part of the season. Him and Ramos both. Obviously, Jung-Hoo Lee is going to be penciled into center field when he comes back next season. I am very hopeful that this Giants outfield will be Ramos, McCray, and Jung-Hoo Lee. That makes me excited for next year's Giants baseball to have those 3 guys from the start of the season. And hopefully no more injuries because, man, they miss Jung-Hoo Lee and all the little things that he does for this squad. So today, the Giants win 5-3 over the White Sox. That's about all the time that we have for you guys today. But I did want to make one brief announcement before we wrap up today's show. It is football season. I mean, we keep talking about football stuff. It is football season. I just mentioned it in the FanDuel read, NFL Sunday Ticket, all those things. So make sure you guys, if you're Niners fans, which if you're a Giants fan, let's be real, you should be a 49er fan. Don't even get me started about the Dodgers 49ers crossover that exists. I don't even want to think about that. But if you're looking for some Niners coverage, make sure you tune in to the Locked On 49ers postcast. Yours truly, Eric Triple E Engel, will be coming to you live after every single Niners game this season. We're starting this coming weekend with the last 49ers preseason game. We'll come to you live right after that one wraps up. And we'll come to you live all season long after every single 49ers game, regular season, postseason. And I'm calling it right now all the way to the damn Super Bowl. They need to do it this year. I just pray to God they don't run into Pat Mahomes again. I might not be able to watch that game. I might just go into like a full-blown panic attack from all the trauma that man has disseminated on the San Francisco 49ers fan base. But if you're following the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel, you'll already be ready to go. We'll be doing the shows just as we do these ones. And if you didn't know this as well, we also do Locked On Warriors postcasts. So make sure you stay locked in with us all year long on Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel and on the Locked On Giants, Locked On Warriors, and Locked On 49ers podcasts. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I love doing these shows. It's fun. I love that we get to have a conversation, and it's always a good time. So make sure you tune in. We'll have some fun. And also something to distract you from this very mid Giants team, because I mean, worse than a team being bad is a team being boring. And not a lot more boring than a team that's just so mid that they can't score runs, that they strike out all the time. And the only teams that they can beat are teams like the White Sox and the Rockies. So if you're getting kind of bored of your Giants baseball, I'm not saying don't watch your Giants. I'm still going to watch my Giants. I'm staying locked in. But something else for you guys too. That's all the time that we got for you today on the Locked On Giants postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll see you tomorrow as the Giants take on the White Sox in Game 2 of this 3-game series. That's all the time we got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.